Good evening guys, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Sly Jordy and welcome back to F1 23 My Team Career Mode for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, the Brazilian Grand Prix. Last episode was a crazy one. We went around Mexico and we got a P4. It seems engine wear is really hitting the AI since Qatar, as we got 5th in Qatar, we got 3rd around Texas, we just got a P4 in Mexico. So we're really wanting to take advantage of this as much as possible. We have almost actually done, protected all the parts that we really needed to. Especially in terms of the aerodynamics. I think we've pretty much got that all done. We're just looking through them all now. We're still wanting to protect some of these parts. We're actually one of the best on the grid when it comes to powertrains. So yeah, we're like top 5. That's crazy. I never really thought about that, but it does show that we still need to improve on other aspects of the car, that's for sure. So hopefully going into season 2, we'll get like a much better, we'll have a much better chance at doing that. But yeah, we are getting right into this. Like, we're not wasting any time. We might have some rain in the sprint. So yeah, but other than that, it's mostly sunny, which is absolutely fantastic. We are getting into the last 3 races of the season now. After this, it's just Las Vegas, and then it's Abu Dhabi, the final round. I am so excited to get into season 2, like to wrap season 1 up. But first, of course, we have to wrap it up first, and we're still we're fighting, trying to keep P7 ahead of Fernando Alonso and Lando Norris, both guys who have actually gotten upgrades going into the last few episodes now. And of course, we are now the worst car on the grid again. AlphaTauri have upgraded their car a little bit, so that does scare me a bit in terms of like keeping Théo Pourchaire on contract. But yeah, I think that pretty much means we won't be able to re-sign him. Maybe we will, because I think in Abu Dhabi, we'll just stick with the reserve driver, and then maybe into the second season we can sign a new second driver. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, I'll leave it up to you guys whether we sign Théo Pourchaire or Felipe Drugovich. If we can't sign Pourchaire because of like his contract rejecting, because we're the worst car in the grid on the R&D chart, then we'll do like, there's Liam Lawson, Enzo Fittipaldi, there's Frederick Vesti, like. We can sign another F2 driver for the second season. I'm not too fussed over the second driver until like season 3. Season 3, I have a specific driver, my team icon, planned for season 3. I'm so excited for it. But now, this is where the difficulty is going to come in. We are going to be taking penalties going into this one. I don't want to be taking penalties in the last 2 races of the season. So, Brazil, we're going to be taking all these penalties. So I was kind of iffy on what to do with the MG UK. There's no penalty for it, so I'm going to save that for a later round. Maybe Vegas, maybe even Abu Dhabi. But every single other part that needs to be replaced, we're going to take all the penalties going into this. So for the sprint, for the full race, we're going to be starting from a last place. So pretty easy title for me. In terms of like, you know, title in the video, like it's a pretty easy job for me. Wasn't sure what to do about the energy store, but I think we're going to replace it because yeah, it was noticeable in Mexico, and obviously the turbocharger on its last legs, we're going to replace that too. The control electronics, these last ages. They lasted well over 1,000 laps. The first one did, so we don't need to worry about that. But this, we're already on our last gearbox, so luckily we've managed to like drag it on. But it was good that earlier on in the season we decided to take a penalty in terms of the gearbox thing, just to have an extra one. But yeah, this is it. We're going around Brazil now, and obviously I spent a lot of time in the practice sessions for sure. But for this episode, yeah, I didn't bother with qualifying, because like, what's the point? We're going to receive a bunch of penalties anyway. Like, yeah, I'm not going to waste engine parts that we just put in. You know, it would give us insane amount of engine wear. So yeah, not going to bother. We're actually just going to watch qualifying as we see one of our rivals, Fernando Alonso, in the Aston Martin, going around the track now. I'm quite puzzled as to why nobody's like announcing their retirement. I see in most people's career modes on YouTube that like, you know, they get at least one person announcing their retirement. It's usually Alonso, but yeah, absolutely no one this season. So yeah, I wonder when that's going to happen. But I'm really, really excited to get into Season 2 as we ride on board with Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. No, sorry, that was Oscar Piastri. And we now have Charles Leclerc. Here's Lewis Hamilton coming out the pits. We've got a Haas there. We've got an AlphaTauri. We've got another AlphaTauri and Nick de Vries. And now we're going to ride along with Fernando Alonso, of course, just to see... try and gauge what type of time he can get around Brazil. I think our pace is going to feel really good around Brazil. I know it felt pretty decent in the practice sessions, but yeah. Of course, a lot of the AI are now dealing with engine wear, hence why me, Alonso and Norris, we're competing quite high up there now, you know. So if Alonso, you know, gets a pretty high qualifying position, I'm not going to be too surprised as he now goes into the final sector, the final corner, the big main straight, looking to cross the line. Let's see what time he actually does get. It does seem like he's got a lot of pace, even though he's 8th in the speed trap. But there is a 1:10, and that is the fastest lap of qualifying so far. Of course, here comes Oscar Piastri in the McLaren. He takes 2nd place, so McLaren have got some pretty good pace. But people like Red Bull and Ferrari, especially Ferrari, Ferrari seem to have fallen off quite a bit. So we'll see what Max Verstappen gets. And yeah, I'm pretty sure he's gotten some new engine parts put in now. Maybe not all of them, but definitely still enough to get into first. Now, this is our teammate now, Théo Pourchaire. His contract ends not too long after Las Vegas, and I highly doubt he will re-sign, quite simply because we're still the worst team on the R&D chart. Of course, our original plan was to keep 2022 F2 champion Felipe Drugovich, but yeah, halfway through the season that contract expired. He didn't want to re-sign because we were the lowest on R&D, and that does suck because we've been upgrading the car all season. It's just everybody else has been doing the same thing, unfortunately, and so you know, we've not managed to really make any gains towards the top. So hopefully in Season 2 some people may not have like protected their parts, etc. Like maybe we can still like make a big jump. Hopefully, like if we can get our car to the middle of the grid, I think we can start fighting for the championship, because as you guys know, the grid is really tight knit anyway, you know. Even though we're at the bottom, like we can still like, you know, compete for like high positions as we are because of how close the grid is. Like, of course, that goes for real life. Like the grid is really close, apart from Red Bull, who are, you know, obviously far and away, or at least they were. Of course, the rest of the grid is slowly catching up, but yeah, outside of Red Bull, it's been a really close season. All the cars are pretty close together, and we've been able to take advantage of that this season as our teammate crosses the line. P18, yeah, we know how this is going to turn out because it sucks, man. But this is why, like, I wouldn't mind letting his contract expire and just having the reserve driver for Abu Dhabi. Maybe even keeping the reserve driver for the 2nd season. We'll see how I feel. Hopefully, we'll be able to re-sign Drugovich. If not, of course, there's Vesti, there's Fittipaldi, and hell, we can just keep the reserve driver. I know it'll be like a 30 overall, but it's not like he's going to be much worse than our current drivers, you know. But there you go. That is our last part to protect in the whole thing. So all of our parts that we have, we are needing to protect this season are all done. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So now we go into the sprint race around Sao Paulo. I'm quite excited, you know. This is going to it's not going to be important because like wherever we place in the sprint, we're still going to be starting at the back. But it will be nice to see where our pace can be at in terms of the race.
Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position, edging out Lando Norris, who'll start from P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Sainz, Perez, Hamilton, Russell, Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri, Gasly, Ocon, Bottas, Stroll, Joe, Albon, Hulkenberg, Magnussen, Sonoda, Teo Pourchaire, De Vries, Sargent, and the owner driver rounds off the grid. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We'll soon find out.
And of course, we're gonna start talking now because yeah, the sprint intros have always been a little awkward. I wish we had an option to part of me wishes we had an option to turn sprint races off. Like, we don't need this, like, we just don't. But I mean, I don't know, I kind of like them, I kind of don't. I'm a bit mixed on them. I think for certain tracks, like, I do enjoy them. I think Texas, like, why that had a sprint, I don't know. But yeah, I think this is the last sprint race of the season. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's not one on Las Vegas, I can guarantee that, because I'm recording that, you know, outside of editing this one. And I'm not sure if there's one for Abu Dhabi. I guess we'll find out. But yeah, we're going to start on the soft tyres. We're going to go as aggressive as possible, because I actually do plan to start on the softs for the actual race. So yeah, we'll have to see what goes on there. But yeah, this is going to be a nice taster to see, you know, just where the car is in terms of race pace. I think, obviously, with the top 6 having a lot of engine wear, taking that into account with the fact that we now have a bunch of new engine parts. Like, we've got a mostly fresh engine here, other than the MG UK. Yeah, or is it the MGUH? Either way, like, we've got a really fresh engine compared to most of these guys. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, really excited to see where our race pace is at compared, because it's looked really good since Qatar. Like, it's really surprised me, and I promise you, I absolutely promise you, I haven't changed the difficulty at all. It's got to be engine wear, unless there's been a patch to make the game easier, which really wasn't needed anyway. It was just fine in my opinion, but yeah, I don't like. I've not turned it up from 85 at all. It's been like this the whole time. We just went from, like, we had a section of the season where we struggled to even get the points, you know? So, I don't know where this late run of amazing pace, amazing positions have come from, but a great start already. Jumping from P22 all the way to P17 as we now slot ourselves between Magnussen and Albon. Yeah, pretty good start, but this is not what I'm worried about. We want to get as close to the points as possible, and quite frankly, as close to Lando Norris and Fernando Alonso as possible, because Lando Norris started, like, on pole. Right? Like, I'm pretty sure he started on pole, or second. I don't know, but either way, he is in first place as of right now, which is terrible for us. Like, no matter how good we do, I don't think we're going to get close to Norris in terms of a sprint race without any pit stops, you know. So at least we've got that going for us in the full race. But yeah, as we come up to the checkered flag, well, not the checkered flag, but as we come up for our second lap, finishing the first lap, we are in P15, so we've jumped about 7 positions in 1 lap, which is great. Absolutely fantastic as we now try and stick close to the back of Lance Stroll as much as possible. Of course, we are still kind of competing with him in the championship, I suppose. Like, he's on Aston Martin. Hulkenberg looking to make a pass. Bit too late for that though. He did get right up my rear end there, but yeah, not something we need to worry about. But our pace is looking really, really good. I actually really like Brazil. I really love this circuit. It's not something that comes to my mind often, but mate, this track is so good for overtakes like that one that you just saw. Like, you're going to see that a lot today. I absolutely love overtaking on this track, as we do another one just absolutely beautiful here. Great overtake on the Alfa Romeo of Guan Yu Zhou as we now look to chase our engine compatriot in the Alpine, Esteban Ocon. Of course, Alpine have the Renault engine just like us. I think we're going to stick with Renault for the second season, but I do have specific plans for the third season, so don't you worry, we ain't going to stick with the same engine all the time. But yeah, P13 by the third lap, things are looking really good. So I think maybe we've got guaranteed points in store for us on the race day, because not only is the top 6 dealing with engine wear, but I can guarantee that these guys are going to be, like, they're dealing with it as well. Because, again, these guys weren't too easy to overtake before. Like, if you guys remember just a few episodes ago at Zandvoort, like, we had no chance at catching Bottas. Like, we got lucky there was a safety car in that race. But in this one, no such thing. We've just got such a great setup. Of course, we've had to take the grass a little bit there as we now come back on track, and Bottas just doesn't give us enough space. Maybe we came back on track a little bit unsafely. Maybe that was both of our fault. Maybe a little bit more of mine. I don't know, but he did squeeze me to the outside a bit more to put me off balance onto the grass a little bit there. So we have took some minor damage to the front wing, but it really doesn't mean that much because our pace is still so good that we've actually caught up to Gasly. We've pulled 5 seconds on the guys behind us. So, yeah, by lap 7, going on to the final lap of the race, we are now chasing down Pierre Gasly, looking to dive down the inside. And now we set our sights on Oscar Piastri. That overtake on Gasly was as clean as you like, as we now look to chase down the McLaren of Piastri, of course. We still need to worry a little bit about Piastri. McLaren, we're still competing with them in the Constructors as we now go around the outside. We've clearly took care of our tyres a lot better than most of these guys, for sure. Yeah, it's looking absolutely fantastic. But everybody in front of us now, like, those guys we're not going to catch up to in a race, especially on this final lap. I think, like, obviously we're still pulling on these guys, still pulling on Hamilton, but yeah. I think this is the best position we could possibly hope for as we now come around into the final few corners. Wow. It's just been a great sprint race. All the way up to P9. It's absolutely beautiful, and we're going to spend our ERS onto this final straight. Unfortunately, though, we're not going to get DRS, so we might be in a little trouble as Lando Norris takes the win. That is not good. And Oscar Piastri in the other McLaren is going to rub salt in the wound. A photo finish as he finishes in P9. He steals it from us. So at least we know we've got the race pace for points, but definitely would have lost a point there in terms of the sprint. Luckily, though, at this point, well, unfortunately, there isn't any points for P9 or P10, but still, definitely rubbing salt in the wound a little bit there with Lando Norris in the McLaren taking the win, and then Piastri in the other one just taking that position away from us. So we really got to keep an eye on that. But yeah, so far, still have P7 in the championship, and what really matters is the full race. So without further ado, let's go to the grid.
Formula One returns to Interlagos once again with the stage set for what promises to be another classic Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel famously clinched his 3rd championship here in 2012, and just 4 years later, Max Verstappen treated us to one of the finest wet weather drives of all time. It's an unusual anti-clockwise race here at Interlagos, where the Sao Paulo locals are packed into the grandstands at each of the 15 corners around this classic 2.7-mile circuit. 2 very fast sections bookend the famous and highly technical Sector 2, where getting a good run out of Junsao into one of the 2 DRS zones will be key to any overtaking prospects today. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Leclerc, Fernando Alonso, Perez, Russell, Hamilton, Oscar Piastri, Gasly, Stroll, Ocon, Bottas, Joe, Hulkenberg, Albon, Magnussen, Tsunoda, Teo Pourchaire, Sargent, De Vries, and the owner-driver rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track. Anthony Davidson, joy to have you with us here, but I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the rundown into turn 1, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
Well, here we go. It all comes down to this. And this is our strategy going into it, of course. It's going to be softs to mediums. Although, if the last race is anything to go by, I could probably switch that up if I feel like it. So, yeah, here we go. I'm proper excited for it. Yeah, we showed really good pace in the sprint. So, yeah, I wonder how the actual race is going to go with the pit stop that we'll do, of course. We can get an undercut as well. Like, I love doing the undercut on most races, but I wonder how it's going to work around here. Of course, it's a very quick track, so maybe it could be like really good. We'll have to see. But yeah, let's get this formation lap out of the way, and we'll go properly to the grid and wait for all the lights to go out. Of course, as we now go around this final corner, we're about ready to do this. What is interesting is that my teammate, Théo Pourchaire, is starting on the hards. Everybody else around us, including myself, is on the softs. So I wonder what the strategy is for Théo Pourchaire. It's quite a strange one. That's to say the least. He's going to be very slow from the get-go, especially compared to everybody else around. So we'll see how that strategy works out for him. But I wish we had a feature where we could decide the teammate's strategy. Like, come on, it can't be that difficult. But anyway, it is. Lights out, and away we go. We're going to look for a similar move to the sprint as we dart to the left. But Logan Sargent actually just he just full-on gets in the way. I'm pretty sure you can't do that. We're going to have to go on the grass just to try and create some sort of space for us now as we slot ourselves into P19, so it's not the worst start in the world, but yeah, Yuki Tsunoda's all at the back of us as we now chase after the Haas of Kevin Magnussen. There's also Guan Yu Cho, and yeah, we braked really late there and dived down the inside to make the double overtake there, so that is beautiful. And we now chase after the man who blocked us earlier, Logan Sargent, as we're now going to dive down the inside as we love to do around this track, and we're going to squeeze into the outside just to voice our displeasure at basically the block that he did right at the start now, as we chase after another Haas, Nico Hülkenberg, diving down the inside once again, and we see another Williams in the form of Alexander Albon. What a weird season this has been compared to real life, because Alex Albon is one of the only drivers to have absolutely no points. I think he actually might be the only driver on the grid to not have any points, apart from Théo Pourchaire and of course Felipe Drugovich, who was on the grid, and I think Yuki Tsunoda. Has Tsunoda got a point? I don't know, but we're going to go around the outside to try and overtake Alexander Albon, who's actually on the mediums. He might actually be the only person on the mediums. I don't know, strange. We might see someone else on the mediums, but he's definitely the only one here. Like, some people are definitely trying some different strategies, of course, so that is a bit strange, but we are now seeing a familiar lineup here with the next two. Of course, it's Ocon and Stroll, so yeah, we're going to chase after these guys. Of course, our pace is looking really good, so good that I think we might be able to do another dive down the inside of Lance Stroll. Yes, we do scare him a little bit, spook him as he steers out the way of us, and we now chase after Esteban Ocon. We lost barely any time doing that, and we're going to dive down the inside again to take the position from Ocon. It is beautiful. Within the space of 2 laps, we are already like very close to the points. It's just crazy, absolutely crazy, our pace around Brazil. And again, I promise you guys, I have not changed the difficulty. I think I've actually recorded another clip that I'll probably include either this episode or the next one, where like I just show that I haven't changed the difficulty. Like, it must be down to engine wear, or there's been a patch where they've made the game easier, which I don't like. And if that is the case, we'll turn the difficulty up to 90. We'll see how Las Vegas goes, because I am debating putting it up to 90 for Abu Dhabi. I think I will do that, we'll see. But for now, it's staying on 85 as we now chase after Pierre Gasly, our first points paying position, as we go down the inside. Pretty early move. We would usually wait until this corner, but we've made the move there, and now we see Oscar Piastri. We're pretty much back where we would have been had the sprint race basically counted towards our points had we not had the penalties. And now this is just going to be a lot easier because people like Piastri, there's Perez, Leclerc, these guys are on hards, you know, like these guys are going to be really easy to catch up to, especially now. Like we're only on the 3rd lap going on to the 4th lap, and these tyres feel absolutely incredible. This car feels absolutely incredible around this track. This might be the best feeling track of the entire season so far for us as we go very aggressive around a very aggressive battle between us and Checo as he tried to squeeze us out there, and we did collide with him a little bit. Very lucky not to receive damage. But yeah, we do use the ERS, and we did have DRS as well on Perez to try and get away from him now. And of course now we've got Leclerc. Hamilton up the road is on the softs. I think we'll have a bit of trouble with him most likely, unless he's being held up by the Ferrari, which I think he might be. He might be held up by Sainz. So yeah, might be really easy to catch up to the Mercedes cars here as we skip ahead to lap 5. Yeah, the Mercedes cars definitely not suffering with engine wear the same as like the Ferraris and the Red Bulls have been. Hence why they've been dominating the last couple of races. But yeah, this is great as we have now overtook Lewis Hamilton and we now chase after Carlos Sainz. It's only a matter of time before these tyres begin to fall off, so I'm wanting to make these passes as soon as possible as we now have DRS and we're chasing after Sainz without ERS, of course. We're going to see if we can dive down the inside of Sainz. A very late lunge, a very early lunge actually. He could have defended that a lot easier. I don't know why he didn't, but yeah, there you go. And Fernando Alonso is the only person along with Albon to be on those mediums as well. Lando Norris, you may have seen him briefly on that leaderboard for a second there. He's on the hards. So he's fighting with Alonso. So him, Alonso and Russell are all fighting each other, which is great news for us because we can actually catch up to them. Now, you might have seen briefly then, just down the road, Max Verstappen seemingly dominating. So definitely not a rare sentence to be uttered. Verstappen dominates quite a lot. So especially in real life now with 10 wins in a row. Like, he's made history. It's crazy. And I'm not sad about the domination at all because Verstappen, like, I love Verstappen as a driver, but we go on to lap 7 now, and it is now clear that these soft tyres are beginning to fall off a little bit as George Russell is now really competing with us now, and yeah, definitely a little less worn as he's really using his power now and probably using ERS as well. He does have DRS, but so do we, so yeah, it's just down to the engine now and a bit of tyre wear, so we're definitely debating maybe coming in early. Maybe get like a monster undercut because our pace is just so good around here that I'm really debating it, you know. But obviously we would not be able to go on to mediums, so we'd have to. The only choice would be to go on to hards, or we do a double stop where we go on to the mediums and then back onto another set of softs, which I'm assuming we do have a spare, but. Yeah, I don't think we need to do that because our pace just feels so good. I really don't think the hards would feel terrible at all, but we are starting to struggle a little bit now. These soft tyres, they've kind of overstayed their welcome, and of course our pit lap would have been like lap 10 or lap 11. So we're just going to strike while we can, you know, while before we start losing too much time. We're just going to get rid of these softs. We're going to go onto the hards and try and make up as much time as possible as we now come into the pits. Let's see if the pit crew can do a good job. They usually do. Let's find out. It's beautiful. Stop time of 2.4. It's wonderful as we are now coming out of the pits. Yeah, just the pit stop we needed. Straight in, straight out. Easy peasy. Let's see what the pace is like on these hard tyres. 5 seconds to catch up. And catch up we do, as within a couple of laps we've already caught up to Nick de Vries. We've already caught up to our teammate Théo Pourchaire. Like, this is what I mean by, like, no real point signing another F2 driver going into Abu Dhabi. Like, we'll just go with the reserve driver. It is what it is. That is if Pourchaire doesn't re-sign, which I doubt he will. We'll have to see. I might be surprised. I'm open to it, of course, but Yes, here we are, up to the first corner. Nick de Vries is fighting us, bro. I don't get it. Like, we're not in your battle, like, at all. And hopefully our teammate doesn't fight as much. I don't want to really compromise his pace, even though it really doesn't matter. Like, him and de Vries are just, like, 3 seconds behind everyone else. And that's really how bad our car is, I suppose, right? Combined with the fact that for some reason he's on the hard tires. Like, what strategy were you trying to go for, you know? So strange, but yeah, we're going to skip ahead to lap 11, going on to lap 12 now as we catch up to Guan Yu Zhou, which is awesome, of course. Some people are going to be pitting now. I'm pretty sure our teammate will be one of them. At least I bloody hope so. It's lap 12 now, so I don't know what strategy he's going for, but like, this is what I mean. Like, why can't we decide the strategy for our teammates in my team? Like, it's my team, you know? Like, I want to decide the strategy for my teammate. Like, come on, you know? But there we go. We get past Guan Yu Zhou. For some reason, these back markers just love to fight. It's just strange, but we made it past Guan Yu Zhou, and now we're going to skip ahead to lap 12 as Nico Hulkenberg is going to pit. A bunch of other people are going to pit now, so let's actually see where we end up. We're actually in front of Max Verstappen after those pit stops, so yeah. And I mean, look up ahead, Albon still out there on the mediums. Fernando Alonso has had an absolute howler with this strategy. I don't know what kind of strategy he was going with, trying to drag these mediums out as much as possible, but he's gonna, like, I think he'll still be in the points when he comes out the pits, but I mean, come on. We've now actually done an absolute blinder on the rest of the grid. We are P1. We had a virtual P1 that whole time because of how early we pitted. An absolutely monstrous, disgusting, nasty undercut. Our pace was so good on the hard tyres. We pitted way earlier than everyone else, like literally at the perfect time. I cannot believe how well this is done. And we might be getting chased down by Max Verstappen, but yeah, I'm pretty sure I have a plan for that, even if he does pass us, because of course Norris isn't too far behind, and I want to get like as far away from Norris as possible. So yeah, if Verstappen tries to get past us, I'm not going to fight it. Instead, we're going to let him drag us along. We're going to try and keep up with Verstappen as much as possible and basically use his DRS. Because otherwise he is quicker, like obviously. He's in the best car on the grid. He's the best overall guy on the grid. And for now, he's on quicker tyres. And so we're actually just going to try and keep up with him. We're going to let him drag us along with DRS to try and stretch out this lead over Russell and Norris. And yeah, that's basically what we're doing as we go on to lap 18 now. We're, as you can tell by the leaderboard, the gap to Russell and Norris is getting bigger and bigger. Lap 19, still keeping up with Verstappen, still getting close enough to be into to get into DRS. And as time goes on, like obviously we're still doing this strategy is working so well with this slipstream. Yes, we're sticking with Verstappen's dirty air quite a lot, which can't be good for our engine, but like other than that, like it's only for these last few laps, stretching on till the end of the race. And like you can see by my editing, like we were doing this every single lap. Like it's absolutely crazy how much I was able to do this. And obviously at this point now, those mediums are starting to wear out a little bit, so we're actually starting to get a bit of an advantage here on Verstappen. Like we've pulled it quite a bit, and it was at this moment when he was struggling to keep ahead of us around those corners, it was at this moment where I started, the thoughts, they started creeping in. Maybe, just maybe, we could make absolute history. We could absolutely shock the world by beating Verstappen, by winning the race. Last to first place. And that's what we're doing. Going on to the last lap of the Grand Prix. Chasing Verstappen here. As we were using ERS there. We turn it off as we go around this corner. We're going around the outside just to get to the inside line here, and we are past Max Verstappen, and we're getting an extra dose of DRS along with it because we were behind Verstappen at the DRS detection point. That, by the way, was accidental. I wanted to get past him, but the whole DRS detection thing, that was accidental, and it means we've actually stretched out a lead further away from Verstappen, and obviously down to our setup, down to the fact at this point in the race we are on better tyres. Verstappen, wow, he's on the ropes. He's not going to win this race. I don't think he'll mind too much because he's still far ahead of Leclerc, so he'll still be ahead in the championship. But this is absolutely incredible for us. We are absolutely shocking the world. This is not going to be topped. Not for a very, very long time. And I don't think it can be. Like, we are the worst car on the grid, and we've managed to do a last to first victory here. Engine wear for most of the AI be damned. We've done it. We have actually won. Legitimately won. In a race that wasn't Monaco. We have gotten P1 around Brazil. The pace that we showed throughout the whole weekend was absolutely crazy. And the strategy played down to perfection. What a win.
Flawless performance here then, and a commanding victory. Tell me, Ant, how do they manage to achieve this win?
Well, when you overtake that many people, I'd certainly hope you'd win the race. Their car was really effective in the slipstream here today, and the team will be pleased that they didn't cook the engine, given how long they were spending in the hot air behind other cars. They had a lot of confidence to push their tyres hard as well, especially going into the corners, which allowed for some late braking and some exciting passes.
Welcome then to the podium, our top 3 drivers. What a great effort from them today in a very difficult race.
Wow. Just wow. I cannot believe what we just did. Wow. I had no idea this was going to happen, but like, yeah, this is a combination of everything that just went well. Our race pace, the setup, AI engine wear, it just all went our way. Like, absolutely perfect. I was just hoping to try and salvage, like, at least, at most, a P7 out of this race due to all the penalties. And I just, wow, because of how early we pitted, sticking behind Verstappen in the DRS, absolutely, like, and of course the hard tyres as well, they worked to our favour absolutely brilliantly. And of course now Red Bull are officially Constructors Champions. That is all wrapped up. We've actually overtook McLaren with this race win in the Constructors. We have P4. Those are all my points. There's a one-man team here, dragged this team to P4 in the championship. So you know, we can still lose that in the final 2 races of the season. It really does depend on how Piastri and Stroll does. I don't think we need to worry about Lance Stroll, but Oscar Piastri is definitely improving if the sprint race was anything to go by. So we'll just have to see what happens. But guys, that is the end of this episode of F1 23 My Team Career Mode. If you guys liked it, hit that like button. Be sure to hit it as hard as you possibly can. We've just got 2 more episodes to go until the end of Season 1. And next time is the very first Las Vegas Grand Prix. I'm so excited. I cannot wait to see you guys then, of course. Cannot wait to show you guys that. But yeah, without further ado, this is the end of the video. Cheers for watching. Subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all next time. Peace!